Good morning, my friends. I hope you all have had a fantastic week. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jackie, and I have the absolute pleasure of getting to tell the kids' story here at Agape every Sunday. And last week I missed you guys so much, but I was out of town on vacation, so I wasn't able to hop on and tell my story the way that I usually do. And I got home super late last night, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get on or not today. So next week, we should be back to our regularly scheduled live and in-person kids lesson, kids story. But for this week, this is what we're working with, unfortunately. So this week, we are going to be talking about whether or not you can be too young for God to use you. Alrighty, guys. So like I said, we're going to be talking about whether or not you're too young for God to use. Spoiler alert, you're never too young for God to use. But we'll get to that. So, my question for you to start is, have you ever wanted to go down a really big roller coaster or the really cool twisty slide at the water park, but you're not tall enough, right? And you're told, you're too small, you can't do that, right? Or, you're not quite old enough, you're going to have to wait another year, right? That really stinks, and that's really hard to hear. But, I have good news, because my good news is God's never going to tell us that, right? So, what does it mean to be too young in God's eyes? Well, you're never too young in God's eyes. So, you have so many gifts and talents and skills that you use on a daily basis, right? And so, the fun part is God gave you those gifts and talents and skills and opportunities. Right? And he gives you opportunities to use those gifts and talents and skills and past experiences to make new experiences and figure out new opportunities, right? And so because of that, God is always using us, right? He's always using us to either share his love with other people or to grow in his love, right? We're always being used by God, right? And there's always a purpose for the things that happen, right? You know, how your grown-ups talk about trials and tribulations and how everything has a purpose. Well, that's true. Just like you have a purpose, right? And your purpose is, one, to share your gifts and talents and skills, and two, to share God's love using your gifts and talents and skills, right? And so with that being said, with the gifts and talents and skills that you have now, you're never too young to share God's love, right? And so one of my favorite verses that talks about this and that kind of touches on this a little bit is found in Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 6 and 7, right? And it says, "O sovereign Lord, I can't speak for you. I'm too young." And the Lord responds and says, "Don't say I'm too young, for you must go wherever I send you and say whatever I tell you," right? And I know that it can be really scary and intimidating if you feel like you're not smart enough or you're worried about other people judging on what you're going to say, or you think that other people are better at something than you, better at sharing, better at talking than you. But that's okay, because you have the specific set of skills, right? And talents and opportunities. And if you don't practice those talents and skills, you're not going to get better, right? So we have to practice, and we have to use opportunities that are given to us to expand our skills, right? And grow towards our purpose. So, with that being said, what happens if you don't know the answer? If you're talking to somebody about God and how much he loves them, and they ask you a question and you don't have an answer, what do? Well, one, it is very scary when that happens, and it's a little bit intimidating because you were already unsure about whether or not you were smart enough to talk about it, and now you don't have an answer to a question, so there's no way that you're smart enough, right? Wrong, right? It's okay to not know the answer to a question. There are a lot of times where I don't know answers to questions, and grown-ups, I'm about to expose you, but a lot of times your grown-ups don't have every single answer to every single question. I know. It's crazy to think about, because grown-ups are supposed to know everything, but we don't. So if you don't know the answer to a question, there are a few things that you can do. One, is you can reach out to your grown-ups and figure out an answer, right? Or if that doesn't work or you don't want to ask your grown-ups for whatever reason, you can always reach out to Pastor Florin, right? He knows a lot of stuff, especially about the Bible. And I am sure he would be more than willing and happy to help you with any questions that you have. Third option is me. I don't know everything. I will be the first to admit that. There are a lot of things that I don't know and a lot of things that I'm not good at. But looking into questions and answering questions is something that I am good at, right? So I will do my absolute very best to help you find an answer. And if I don't have an answer, I'll go talk to the people who I think might have an answer, right? People like Pastor Florin or my pastor at the school that I go to or the pastor at the church that I go to when I go with my family, right? All of these are possibilities and options for people that you can ask, your grown-ups, pastors, other people around you who you think might have an answer. Your siblings, if you have siblings, are a really great option too. So that is what I've got for you. You have a purpose. You're never too young, right? And if you feel like you're not smart enough or you don't know all the answers, that's okay, because I don't know a single person who knows all the answers. Not one, actually. Except God, right? And so if you're called to do something and called to share and called to use your talents and skills, it's important to trust that God is going to make sure that you're covered, because he will, because he speaks through us and moves in us. And so as long as we're following his call for us and his will, we'll be taken care of. We'll be good to go. And you won't misstep, most likely. There's always a chance. But if you're speaking, or if God is speaking through you, there's no way that you're going to say the wrong thing. So that's what I've got for you guys today. I hope you all enjoyed that little lesson. And I will see you next Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your week, you guys.